Tonight. It's nice to be back in Peterborough Museum. I used to volunteer here about 30 years ago. My parents thought I was at college. No, I wasn't. I was out doing paleontological digs with Gordon Chancellor, Martin Howe and the late Alan Dorn. They sort of got me inspired about digging old stuff up.
Sorry, can you pop that on for Dave?
Yep. They got me inspired about digging stuff up. About 20 years ago, a mate and I started field walking. There we were, wandering around at Polbrook Airfield out near Roundel, home of the 351st Bomb Group. There we were, wandering around, picking up bits of scrap metal, and they were scrap metal. Various pieces of unidentifiable aluminium. That we were doing it, I had 4 crates of nondescript aluminium. So there are a few bits on there that are noticeable and identifiable. Well, one type of bit, and that's the gaskets, from a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. The next crate is very much the same, nondescript aluminium. The only bits that we can identify, obviously, the bottles. We've got there a control from a heated flying suit, and also an intact light bulb. How that managed to survive all that time in a field that was getting, who knows? So we didn't know what craft they were from. They may have been from B-17s, B-24s, P-51D Mustangs, or even short Stirlings. Short Stirlings were taken there just after the war and converted. There were some bits of short Stirling that we managed to identify, which we then donated to North Creek Control Tower Bed and Breakfast, which they then sold in an auction evening, along with one of my wife's paintings. We raised nearly £500 towards the memorial. So, all of the unknown aluminium bits I've still got them at home at the minute, but they will be going to the Battle of Britain Museum down in Hawkinge. As they're aluminium, they can be recast and put towards a restoration project that they've got going on there. So it saves them having to buy in raw aluminium. A couple of years later, we went to a memorial service, and you'll see there's a few pictures of the memorial service on here, and met the veterans. As you can see, some of them there. There's James there, who's a veteran, and a couple of the other Americans, and then further on, some more of the veterans. They're there at the Stone Airmen. So it was nice to meet them, and it didn't really mean very much to me. I stood chatting to them, and as you can see, wreath was laid, and there's James again there. I'd love to know what's going through his head, standing there thinking about his comrades that, for a start, didn't make it back to the airfield alive, but also didn't make it back to Britain some 75, 80 years later. So, my mate and I then had a wander over a crash site, which was just outside Glatton Village. He knew of the site, and he wanted to show me the crash site of Miss Ida, 448152, a B-17, that took off in 1945. It crashed just after takeoff. 9 out of 10 of the guys on board were killed, and there was a book written about it, which he said I had to get, so I did. Found in a footlocker, The Forgotten Story of Robert L. Todd. So, flick through it, pretty pictures. I'll look at that sometime anyway. Back on the bookcase it goes. A few months later, another mate rang me up and said, "Hello mate, I know you like planes and enjoy collecting scrap metal. My mate's got a bit of plane." "Oh, whereabouts is it?" I said. "Manor Farm in Glatton." By Jove. Jumped in the car, raced over to him. There was this big chunk of metal, blooming heavy as well. Took a photograph of it, sent it to a friend of mine. I wouldn't say he's an anorak, I'm sure he's got one, but Paul said to me, "Yes, that's from a B-17. Great, my lump of rusty steel was indeed from a B-17, but not just any B-17. It was from Miss Ida. So, there was that chunk of rusty metal. I said, blooming heavy. So, quite pleased with myself, now owning a port wing spar from a World War II bomber, I went for a pint at the Admiral Wells. And I was surprised to see, not only is it the lowest pub in Britain, that's not a great accolade, is it really? But also then when I walked in, there's pictures on the wall. Blimey me, there was a picture of Miss Ida there as well. So, I've got the book, there's a bit in the boot of the car, and there's a picture of it. Absolutely fantastic. There's me just thinking that Peterborough Business Airport was a small private airfield that me and my dad used to visit when I was a kid on a sunny Sunday afternoon. Little did I know what a journey this would be. So again, more pictures there of the airfield and memorial service. So, Glatton itself, it was constructed in the parish of Connington, Station 130, RAF Glatton. Began in late 1942, and you'll see a variety of pictures on there of the construction, and it was continued into 1943. The 809th Engineering Battalion were assigned the task of actually constructing the airfield, but there were some other groups involved. They was led to believe that there was a bit of corruption going on. Did they do a good enough job? Who knows? So again, you can see the concrete there being laid. And again, throughout the construction. There was also mud control as well. So as you can see there, they would forfeit their next 24-hour pass if they didn't report in. More to the point, if they made a mess, they were in deep doo-doo. So again, picture of the airfield under construction there. Walking around the airfield and the perimeter tracks, not many people are wandering around looking at the feet, but I always do because it might be a quid on the floor or something, who knows. But each one of the concrete panels has got markings of the group of engineers that actually helped with the construction. That's an odd one really, to be honest, 17th of May 1945. That shouldn't be dated there, and we still don't know how that was put on there, because construction was well finished by then and approaching the end of the war. So again, you'll see further pictures of the runway. The runways itself are obviously concrete, covered in asphalt, and that particular shot there shows a flare cap. Still there 80 years on from probably when it was fired. So again, more inscriptions in the wet concrete. I'm led to believe there's also some footprints going across one of the perimeter tracks. I've yet to find them. So Lee, if you find them, yep, let me know where they are.
Okay.
So, and again, more markings, and that is generally on every concrete panel that you see, whether it's perimeter tracks going up to the bomb dump, you'll see them there. Oh, one thing I forgot to say was, why was RAF Glatton called Glatton? Well, Connington could have been confused with Coningsby, or even Honington. I'm not saying the acts were daft, but one afternoon I'm there with some of the guys from Wacky Wabbit, and David said to me, bloody hell, we said, supposed to be going up in a couple of minutes, the bloke's still not here. Right, so we waited another 5 or 10 minutes, and his phone rang. We're outside the main gate, but they won't let us in. What do you mean they won't let us in? Julie's quite hospitable there at Connington. She'll let anybody in generally, even me. Poor old chap had turned up at Coningsby. Put it in on his sat nav. He didn't recognise Connington, so he should have put in black, shouldn't he? So, the land was originally owned by Rosecourt Farm, which continued as an operational farm, even though it's smack bang in the middle of an operating American airbase, which I believe is quite unique. And as you can see there, where the 3 runways would be, and Rosecourt Farm, smack bang in the middle. So, moving on. The 457th was formed in 1943, and in January 44 they moved into Glatton from Wendover Field in the States. And they were assigned to the 94th Bomb Group, Bombardment Wing, along with the 351st from Polbrook and the 401st at Deanthorpe. The 457th consisted of 4 squadrons, but this is the handover from the RAF over to James Looper. So you can see the formal handover. You'll see the RAF ensign being lowered, and then followed by the Stars and Stripes going up. There were several other units that were assigned to RAF Glatton. Everybody thinks the 457th. However, as I said, there were 4 squadrons, and you've got them on there, the 748th, 49th, 50th and 51st. And they all had different coloured propeller heads on there, so they could be easily identified. The other units that were assigned were the 468th Sub-Depot, the 18th Weather Squadron, the 88th Station Complement Squadron, the 1061st Military Police Company, the 1212th Quartermaster Company, the 1790th Ordnance Supply and Maintenance Company, the 860th Chemical Company, the 2100th Engineer Fire Fighting Platoon. Right, good. Right.
Can you repeat that, please?
A transcript is available upon request. So, the Fireball outfit was born. As I said, yes, the Fireball outfit was born. However, it's believed that the 457th insignia, showing the Fireball outfit, was not actually recognised by the 8th Air Force, and possibly they were the only bomb group to go into combat and displaying an unofficial patch. The airfield itself had 3 standard runways, that being the main one that's still in use today. That, as I said, that's still in use today. Then, if you see on the next slide, that's as it was laid out in a standard A-frame pattern. So all 3 runways do survive today, and an aerial picture there. The road that runs from home out to the old A1 is actually one of the old original runways, so technically all 3 are there. The main runway was 6,000 feet long, and the other 2 were 4,200 feet long, all 150 feet wide. The runways used, I'm making notes because I'm going to ask questions in a bit. The runways used 18,000 tonnes of dry cement, 90,000 tonnes of aggregate, and were 6 to 9 inches in depth, totalling 120,000 cubic yards with a stress weight of 2,000 pounds. There were a couple of T2 hangars on site, drawing numbers if you want them, 3653/41. There were 43 spectacle and 6 frying pan hard standings. There were a number of domestic sites that were dotted around. However, the heart of the airfield is always the control tower. Again, if you're interested, drawing number 12779/41 with the optional weather observation on top there, or drawing number 343/43. Sadly, no, it's now gone. That's looking from the watch office onto the ident square. And again there, we've got Colonel Rodner on there on the left-hand side. I'm in fairly regular contact with his grandson, and I've got some documents that I've sent to his son that I will copy and send over. The ones I've got are originals, signed by him. So, as I said, the control tower has now gone. However, the farmer quite often stacks his haystack where the watch office used to be, and also some of the staff from Connington, because they haven't got very far to go, whereas I have, do actually hold a little toast on various different events. Sometimes the first or the last missions. And of course, Fireball is the drink of choice. I would offer you some, however, it doesn't normally last long in my house, particularly when the wife's there as well. It is quite nice, and mix it with a little bit of apple juice if you don't want it too strong. There aren't many other structures that are left on site. The old ops block, which that's the M&E plinth 4, and that's the ops block. It was demolished in on itself and is fairly close to where the church is. There's also the standby set house that people often think, yes, it's just a farm building. but it's not. It is used by a farmer now, and of course, the main building, or the main structure that's left, is the Braithwaite Tower, the water tower. So, you can, that's it, yeah. So, you see the Braithwaite Tower there, and that stands where one of the domestic sites were. And as you can see, we've got the newer memorial there. So there it is again there. It's always been slightly contentious because the tail is not right. If the tail was right, or if it was to that scale, the tail would be half the length of the main wing spar. So somebody didn't quite get the figures right with that. So also we've got the other memorial which stands on the grounds of All Saints Church. This overlooks the airfield. Well, it would do if they cut the trees down. And this was unveiled originally in May the 31st, 1945, again by Colonel Rockner. And that's from one of the reunions in 1975. Now it is just plain concrete, but then it was nicely painted. So again, one of the memorial services we had there. Colonel Rockner did actually say in a bulletin, "Attention all personnel, every member of this station is urged to visit Conington Churchyard and view the memorial bust to the American airmen of the 457th who gave their lives in World War II. Many aircrews and staff visited before they left for home, and many families still visit today." That's Bob and his wife, whose name I can't remember. They came over from the States, and well, they told me that they were coming over, so we sorted out a little nice little surprise from Steve there on the right. Has a variety of vintage vehicles. So we had a poodle around not only Glatton, but also Polbrook, Kingscliff and Grafton Underwood as well. It's always nice to meet these individuals who visit the airfields where their fathers, grandfathers and uncles served. Every now and then I'll get an email or FaceApp message. "Hi Jerry, my name is whoever, Bob and Mrs. Bob. We're coming over the pond, can we meet you? Can you and your crew give us a tour around?" You won't believe how good that feels. If I'm working, probably Lee's about or Johnny's about. So, and it's always nice to have some wingmen. So, also at this point I must thank Eric Zemper. He's the guy on the right. He was the group's official photographer, taking thousands of images whilst over here, and also his son Eric, who's working tirelessly through the colossal collection of digitised pictures, some of which you can see now. So Eric, and unfortunately Dwayne died a few years ago. So I think there's another picture of, oh yes, you'll notice the book. So there is also a short video on YouTube, which I'll put on, which again is using some of Dwayne's pictures.
That's too technical for me, Mr. Wright.
It looks like it was too technical for Dwayne as well at the time.
I can see it on my screen very clearly.
Right, we'll come back to that.
Hang on.
Nick's an apple man, you see.
It's not the first time it's happened, or not.
Yeah, bear with me, I'll just... I've got to say, it's just... where is it?
Yeah, it's there, but not there.
Right. Oh, I'll come back to that anyway.
Thank you.
So Dwayne there, reading about the facts of life. Oh, I think we might have got it.
Yeah.
No. Right, well, we'll go. Oh,
It's not that one, is it?
no. No, it's none of those. Oh, there we go, yeah. So we'll drag it back a bit and start again. So these are some of the pictures that Dwayne took on operational missions. music as well, but we haven't got amplification, so and you'll notice some of the aircraft, that one there and another one that's in flight a little bit later on, don't have a ball turret. That was because they were lead aircraft. It had a radome in there. So they would be the lead aircraft, possibly with a northern bomb sight, and they would obviously instruct where to drop the loads. And you can see that one there particularly has got a radome on there. They did come in a variety of colours, drab olive, and also the unpainted, which saved the weight, so therefore a bit faster, a bit higher. And then there was the oddment, called half and half, which was silver at one end, and drab olive at the other. So I don't think there is a total number of photographs that Dwayne actually took. Eric just knows there's a hell of a lot. It's going to take me a bloody long time when I last spoke to him.
Is that an unusual collection across the American bomb groups, or did they all?
They all have them, but Dwayne was very, very conscientious. I think he'd photograph anything. Oh, it's cheap, let's have it. I've got 10 DVDs full of pictures of Dwayne's, and I know it's nowhere near, probably even a tenth of the collection. So, and we've got a nice one there buzzing the airfield, and then sitting out one of the dispersal plants.
Yeah.
And there's Dwayne himself. So, we're down the bottom there.
Yeah, I'm just getting back to it.
From current slide, keep going along there. There, no, not that one. Don't want to start again. Especially reading out all those groups that were involved.
That didn't work. I flipped through
It's
it.
getting there, all the, there we go.
Here we go.
Right, so we've got the construction there. So we're now at the first mission. So yes, the first mission was February the 21st during Big Week. The base call sign was Nut Tree and the aircraft were called Woodford Baker. The two targets were Guttersloe and Lipstadt. An A formation was led by Colonel Looper, who was the guy that took the 457th to war. The second mission was a day later, again led by Looper, but flying a very special bird. He was at the controls of the 1000th B-17 produced by the Douglas Aircraft Company in Long Beach. Homer Briggs was also co-author of the trilogy of Fait Accompli, worked at the site, and that was part of his training. 2 days later, the next mission, and so the relentless workload continued. Mission 9 was Berlin. 620 of the bombers of the 8th Air Force and 500 fighters escorted the heavies. There we have the 1000th B-17. 2 days later, as I said, the next mission, and then we were on to mission number 12, which was March the 13th, 1944. This was a no-ball mission. It's identified as the target of being a V1 launch site. One of the many wonder weapons, vengeance weapons. Although this was an unsuccessful raid, 21 forts were dispatched, intense flak damaged 8 of the aircraft. In March 1944, a B-29 Superfortress just happened to swing by Clacton. 41-369-63, Hobo Queen, touchdown. Quite unusual to see one of those in the UK. Did a little bit of a wander round. And you can see there, the lads were a bit curious.
practice on good news, you know.
Sorry?
Not landscapes, first time I've seen one of those.
Oh, right.
Spain, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're the ones that bombed Japan.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, as you mentioned that,
No.
I'm just trying to think what his name was now. Who was the pilot? That was it. Yes, Paul Tibbets. Sorry, yeah. I was off the train of thought. So Paul Tibbets actually trained at Polbrook. So Polbrook also was well known for having some bloke called Clark Gable there. So, and Clark actually lived in an aptly named, well, it's aptly named now, called the Gables. So Polbrook's a nice wander around, nice village, nice pond. Do be aware though that if you climb the water tower there to get some wonderful pictures, it's about 80 years old, and that's a lot of winters and summers. I went up it like a rat down a drain pipe, or up a drain pipe, and yes, and then I thought about it, bloody hell, that's a long way down. So came down it very, very gingerly. So, where were we? So the reason why it's led to believe that the reason why the B-29 visited Clapham was really, it was just propaganda to let German intelligence know that there could be a direct replacement for the B-17. However, that never happened. The story continues throughout the short time that the 457th were in England. April the 29th, my dad's 5th birthday, was mission 36, going out to Berlin. Oh, I put that. No,
Sorry.
Go back one. I put the wrong slide in there. It was 12 combat wings were directed to the business district of the capital. The group supplied 24 aircraft and flew as the high box of the 94th Combat Wing. All birds dropped their payloads on the instruction of the lead aircraft. Results were unreported, flak was moderate, no faults were lost, no enemy aircraft were spotted. Then we come on to June the 6th, Mission 60, 1944, D-Day. At 1 o'clock, Looper entered the briefing room and declared, "This is it. This is the day we've all been waiting for. Every resource in our possession must be put to use, and the mission must be successful." The crews were told that if they ditched, only the boats heading back to the UK would pick them up. The job was to hit the German defensive positions. In total, 8th Air Force put up 2,512 bombers, with only 5 being lost. And then again, some Zeb's pictures from that particular event. April the 2nd, mission number. Well, it didn't really have a mission number. That's why there are differences between the number of missions the 457 flew and, well, people have their own opinions. The target was a jet airfield in Denmark. They were under instruction to only bomb if the conditions were CAVU, clear and visibility unlimited. The target was obscured by cloud, so the operation was abandoned. It was noted that there was no flak, no fighters, no bombs dropped, and therefore no mission. Basically, a bloody long practice run. July the 28th, 1945, a B-25 Mitchell from the 457th Bomb Group came out of fog. Get that bugger up. Unfortunately, he didn't. Colonel Smith and 2 airmen who were hitchhiking at the time, and 11 office workers were killed. On a normal working day, as many as 15,000 people worked in the skyscraper. But on this Saturday, only about 1,500 were present. Among those were a handful of workers in the Catholic War Relief Services office on the 79th floor, working on providing aid for millions of homeless and destitute people in the war zones around the world. There was one thing worth noting about this. Obviously, individuals died, but a lady called Betty Lou Oliver survived after plunging 75 floors when the crash severed the lift cables. The combination of air pressure and the coiled cables at the base of the shaft acted like a spring to cushion the fall. I believe it's still the world record for the longest free-fall elevator drop survived. The final mission was on the 20th of April 1945. The target was the marshalling yards at Setting in Germany. No difficulties were encountered. And I've lost the place. Encountered, and there was no anti-aircraft fire. All aircraft returned undamaged. After VE Day, the 457th transported prisoners of war from Austria to France and then returned back to the US, but not before they'd had a bit of a knees up. They had a parade through Peterborough. And obviously right in front of the town hall there as well. I think that might be Westgate, not entirely sure.
They're standing on air raid shelters
Right, yeah.
on the left there.
Oh, right, yeah.
There is a video of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
I'll have to have a trawl of it.
Well, there's a video that we showed upstairs.
Oh, right, okay. So again, some of Zeb's pictures there as well. And you can see Rodner there just on the left in front of the naval chapel. So after the war, the airfield was used by No. 3 Group of the RAF Bomber Command, flying Liberators, Lancasters and other heavy bombers. By 1948 it was decided the airfield was surplus to requirements, the land sold and returned to agricultural use and then demilitarised. That's currently on the side of the hangar at Glatton, painted by the same guy that also did the mural on the end of the building there, and also the other one at the end of the old bike shop there as well.
Yeah, I think that's not.
So, yeah. He also did another one at RAF Upwood as well. But by far he said that was the most difficult because it's on corrugated materials. For a short while after the war, the 457th lived on under a different guise. 457th Troop Squadron, Carrier Squadron, and also the Tactical Airlift Squadron, operating a variety of other aircraft. B-17s, Liberators, B-29 Super Fortress, de Havilland Canada Caribou, North American TE-39 Sabre, Convair V6, Beechcraft, and also Learjet as well. Today, the airfield is privately owned, but they are very much aware of the importance of Station 130 and its history. Julie always makes a point of welcoming any veterans and any event that wants to be on there. But let's go back. April the 5th, 1945. Do you remember that piece of metal, that lump? So that relates to possibly the most important, fourth most important woman in my life. It's a damn good job my mum, wife and sister aren't here. So I've got this first identifiable part of an aircraft that I took possession of, and that started my journey. Well, after hauling my wing spar from memorial to memorial and ended up in the pub and seeing a picture of the aircraft, I started to research Miss Ida. 448152, Boeing B-17G, was delivered in September 1944. Squadron Commander Dixon, who you'll see in a minute, and again various Zempler pictures. And again, Miss Ida in flight there. Oh, no, I'll come back to that then. Squadron Commander Dixon named Miss Ida after his mother. She flew 39 missions, the first being on September 28, 44. On April the 5th, 1945, the mission was to bomb the ordnance depot at Ingolstadt. That was to be her last. Fully fueled and carrying a full payload of bombs, she rolled down the runway. Number 2 engine was on fire, and Major Dozier decided to put Miss Ida down in the land belonging to the Williams family, which it is in Glatton. If you come over from Conington, over the bridge, over the A1, you'll be able to see a mobile phone mast on the right on the hill, a row of pylons. Unfortunately, the Williams family had put haystacks there, and also there was a building. Dozier managed to miss the building, but not the haystack. At approximately 5:30, there was a huge explosion, which was heard by young John Williams, who recalled that he was almost out of bed. there were other expletives when he told me that, but there's ladies present. The crater itself, as you can see, was about 6 foot deep, and wreckage was spread across a massive area. The building was ultimately destroyed in the fire, and the building that is now on site on the farm was actually rebuilt by the Americans. As I said, 9 out of the 10 guys died. There was only 1 casualty on the ground. Unfortunately, the horn was broken on the cow, so they had to shoot it. There was, and another report was, one of the wheels was seen bouncing down towards the village. I don't know where that ended up. The guys that died, there are 6 that are buried at Madingley, and on April the 5th, just about every year, and you can see the roster there, we have a remembrance service at Glatton, actually at the spot where Miss Ida crashed, and there's some of the reports, eyewitness reports or official reports. That chunk of metal that was originally given to me was then made into a memorial on site there. John Williams, the farmer whose dad was one of the first on site, agreed to have the memorial there, and we thought it was quite fitting that the wing spar that held the lads up for numerous missions would hold them up, well, for as long as we're going to be around anyway. The guys that died were Lieutenant Snow, he was 25, Ed Dozier was 26, James Goyert was 23, Harry Val was 24, Joe Adams was 20, Robert Todd, remember that name? The forgotten story of Robert Levi Todd. Jack Tafer, Robert Pinkney, Herbert Sempler. 1 guy survived. John Williams helped him to safety. He died, he passed away in 2002, aged 80. This is from a couple of the memorial services that we've held up at the site. And that is another copy of what's on there as well. So as you can see, Meng survived.
So where was he? What was his job?
Meng was, as far as I'm aware of, navigator, but somebody said, oh no, it was some radio operator. So who knows? What we do know was he was found wandering over there somewhere, a bit dazed, and well, had some burns as well. John Williams recalls actually attending site, running up there, and the smell of fuel, the 50 cal rounds going off, and as I said, with men wandering around over there. It was a little bit graphic, and I didn't say this at the service, but he was a little bit graphic when he stood there a couple of years before he died. Stood there with his stick. He said, "Oh yeah, bullets going off everywhere. Bloody hell! All you could smell was fuel." And he said, then the yaks came up, 4 of them on a corner, and picked up the body parts and put them into a blanket. He missed them bits over there, he said. The dog didn't go hungry. But you've got to remember, it was right at the end of the war. Yeah. So, as I said, I think it was 15 days before the final mission. So that was when we unveiled it. Boy, was that a windy day. We actually involved Ash there in the older uniform. That is a genuine 457th named uniform, and also the Americans also had a presence as well. And in the last service that we actually had, we had a nice reading as well from the American, and also the daughter-in-law of the farmer, Paul Williams. So that's the field as you would normally expect to see. That's Paul. So I've got this big bit, this big chunk, and right, so I found out Paul Williams' number, and I rang him. I said, "Hello, Paul." "Hello." I said, "Can I start field walking your field?" "Why?" I said, "Well, I've got a bit of Miss Ida, we've got a bit of B7. That's where that bugger went. That was holding my barn door open. Well, don't blame me. Mel said it was his, so I've got it. What's your interest? Just got an interest. I've got a book. I've got more books now, actually, and I'll come on to those in a minute. And I've got this bit of B17. Okay, yeah, you can field walk then. So, right, so it was literally, there's the field, you saw how big the field was. Now just go have a wander. So, he's absolutely brilliant, this Paul. He rang me one day and said, I found a bit. You better bring a spade. I've been out shooting pigeons, he said. Which is fine. The car was about half a mile that side of the field. So that was potentially the biggest bit, not the heaviest bit. The wing spar was blooming heavy, but that was one of the other bits. He then said, I've got some more bits, come and see me. So, field walking, again, finding bits and pieces. We've got another, again, blooming heavy, and again that was about half a mile away. And then we've got exhaust and turbo parts there as well, and then some other nondescript rear rudder controls and some other bits and pieces. People knowing my interest, people ring me up and say, oh, I've got so-and-so, whatever. When the museum at Wisbeach, the Aviation Museum, Wisbeach Kings Lynch Way, random phone call, we've got some bits, we believe that you collect bits and pieces from this item and you have an interest. Yes, I do. So that's where we got some of these bits and pieces from as well. And there is also, as you can see, a display there at East Kirkby. That was excavated about 20 or so years ago, and you see the similarity between a couple of the bits. They do have some bits that are actually marked up as Boeing as well, slightly envious. But I have said to Andrew at East Kirkby, if I go before you, mate, I've got some bits you might want to put on display. Ah, right, he said, what, another cabinet? I said, no, I'll take all those all the way down that side, please. This is a small selection of the bits and pieces. I've got a very tolerant wife. So, and again, bits and pieces that found out on the field. A boot heel. So that's detailed as, yes, it's made in the USA. And again, I've had, I say specialists, somebody's looked at it and said, yes, that's from a firefighter's boot. So yes, we know it's definitely there. I won't hand this around, but we found a couple of these from brake pads. They're asbestos, so I'm not gonna, but they're not broken, so you're fine. I should have done a risk assessment, shouldn't I? Other bits and pieces. Any ideas?
It's a flare cartridge, isn't it?
I was going to say.
Fairly close, but no cigar.
Yeah.
Right.
As Roy Walker would say, it's good, but it's not right.
Is it?
So.
Do you know what it is?
Huh?
Do you know what it is?
Yes.
You're going to tell us?
Yeah, I'll let everybody have a little look and have a feel of the bit. So, other bits that I found, a fork. So, box standard fork could have been dropped 2 years ago. No, it couldn't have been, because it's, yes, crow's foot on it. So, that only got on that side one way. Some American pinched it from a raft base somewhere, and when the plane went down, that was there. So, you
Tell
find,
a story.
yeah, so there's one of your flare caps. So, finding other numerous bits and pieces from the 50 cal chain as well.
And
Again, numerous 50 cal rounds as well. Some of them, or most of them, actually unfired, because it's literally just taken off less than half a mile away. So, but safe because they're cooked off. So, when we were out at Polbrook, we find the old 50 cal, head was missing, There's a little bit of mud in there. Oh yeah, it's either full of mud or it's got some cordite in. Wait till we get home. Tip the cordite out when you've got enough in an old wok. Set fire to it, and it goes off like it was made yesterday. So other bits and pieces as well. I said, go through fits and starts. Sometimes you'll see half a dozen of these lying around. Other times you won't see any.
It's not going to be taps off the elevators.
I don't know.
So any guesses?
Is it is it a tap off the elevator? No.
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 It's the end of one of these. 1 kilo German incendiary bomb.
Oh, right, it felt a bit heavy. I did wonder.
So you've got.
Is it thermite inside the magnesium? Is it?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah.
So, quite an odd story with this, sitting outside a pub in Stamford. No comments, Nick. And a guy comes over, he owns the castle by them, came over to me and said, "We've got a couple of German bombs if you want them." Oh, that'd be great, yes. Next time you're around Grenville, come and see me. So a couple of days later, the phone's gone off, where are you? Outside the pub. So Grenville's come over, got out of his rucksack, these two, plonked them on the table. Well, cleared the beer garden. And he turned around and said, "I know they're safe, mate, they're safe." My granddad and his buddies in the Home Guard deactivated them. What was that, pike, Mannering, Wilson? And very gingerly unscrewed the end. No, it was fine. So I said people come to me with all sorts of bits and pieces. So where are we again now? So we're back now to Miss Ida overall. So we've commemorated the guys that have died, and is that where the story ends? Well, no, because people have relatives, and people send me emails and face-ache messages. I got one story out of the blue. That's the field as it is today, nice and peaceful. When it is, when it's actually been rolled, there's still a slight indentation where the original crater was. So there has been talk of, let's have an excavation, let's get a licence, let's dig it. The crater, as we said, was 6 foot deep. Where did they put all the rubbish from Glatton Village to fill that hole? That's where it all went. So yes, they filled the hole. So you'll find lots of bits of crockery across there as well. So, as I said, I got a message from an American lady. So we then spoke. Her name was Mary Dearborn. She wanted to know what my involvement was with Miss Ida. Slightly guarded. Right. I'll just say I'm an English chap with an interest. She then went on to explain that her dad, Sergeant Richard Grace, should have been on that flight. Richard had come back the day before after being on a mission and was greeted by some Red Cross nurses and a bottle of whiskey. That bottle of whiskey got into his system quite well and wasn't out of his system the following morning. He was insubordinate and was grounded. Robert Pinkney, whose grave that is, shouldn't have been there. He was there. So she, when we were talking, I sent her that picture. Just nothing, and she started to sob, and I started to sob. A bit softy, really. So started to sob, and she told me that story. And apparently, her father felt guilty all the way through up until the day he died, and only spoke about it a few weeks before his death. There was another lady contacted me. Her name was Beth. Now Beth contacted me and said, again, similar sort of thing. What's your involvement with it? I said, well, I've just got an interest. So, my granddad was on that flight. He was Harry Vale. Harry Vale, right, okay, yes, he's mentioned here in the book, and in the books, and in the books, and in the books, yeah. So, Harry actually did a tour. If we go back to the previous slide there, he did a tour and he'd done his 25 missions. But I want to go home. So he went home. He went home to see his twins. 2 girls, that was the first time he'd seen them, and the last time when he left the States to come back. So there they are, the two twins and his wife. And there he is again, with one of the twins. So I got to know Beth quite well, and she sent me a lot of these pictures, obviously family photos. There he is again in training. And there's the two twins. Beth asked me if she could purchase some bits of Miss Ida, of which she got a short sharp no. Oh, I'm terribly sorry if I've offended you. I said, no, you haven't offended me. I said, you're not buying them, they're yours. It's not my aircraft. So I sent them to Beth, and it was Christmas Day afternoon. I got a Facebook video call, and it was the twins. The bits that I'd sent home, Beth had actually then boxed up, put on in a nice little frame, and presented to the twins in the morning. They started crying, I started crying, and then it was a couple of weeks later, I got a message from Beth saying, oh, look, we made the local rag. This English guy, Jeremy Wright, blah, 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 finds bits. Yeah, do find bits. And then about a month later, unfortunately I can't find it from her. But a while later, there was then another video message. Click on this link. So I clicked on it, and it was the local news station, part of CNN. Watch this. And there we've got a nice heartwarming story. An English gentleman called Jeremy Wright, over in England, finds bits of aircraft, and these were presented to, and again I was in tears. They were in tears because we got them on video call as well. So, we always like to try and remember the, not only the men of the 457th, but all casualties of war. Something that really brought it home to me, as I said, we've got this story of Robert Levi Todd. We've got the bit of the aircraft. We've got Station 130, which, that was my family home number over in Warrington. 130, that's where I grew up, my mum's still there now. The 457th flew 237 missions. My birthday is the 23rd of July, it's 23-7. And the book relates to, as I said, Robert Levi Todd. It also relates to that dog tag there. That was found out on the field within the first 2 years of field walking. I can't tell you the emotion that I felt when I got it. I contacted the nephew of Robert Todd, Bill Marcellus Todd, his name is, and we'd agreed that he was going to come over to the US, from the US, and I was going to show him around. He didn't know I'd got the dog tag. I wasn't going to tell him, no, I've got that. I was going to give it to him at the crash site. No, I was going to give it to him at Madingley. I was going to give it to him in the air as we flew over the crash site. And then he said, no, he can't be bothered to come over. Okay, that was a bit of a shame, but I'd already arranged, and it was a strike day at Madingley, but I'd arranged with Bruce, who was the superintendent at Madingley Cemetery, to go over there and show Bill these the graves, the 6 graves. So I got talking to Bruce, and we walked round and we've had a look at the graves, and he said, what's the interest? Well, I've got this dog tag. That's not yours. I said, I know. Don't give me the grief, mate. That's not yours. It belongs to the US government, but they don't want it back. Don't worry. What are you going to do with it? I said, well, I don't know. He said, right, you could send it to your bloke, and then you could put it in a frame, and he puts it on the wall and pays homage to it every morning. Or you can send it to him, and he'll chuck it in a box, in a drawer. Or you send it to him, and he can buy it back off eBay for about $25, $30 in a couple of months' time. It stays with the bird he died on. So that's where it is. That stays with the bits of Miss Ida. And that, as I said, Bruce was a veteran, and every veteran I've spoken to has said basically the same thing. One thing I have vowed is if I do find the other one, and I know there's one there, I will be taking it to his grave in Nogales, Arizona, and putting it in the headstone, and probably feel the same way as that little girl did about whoever that relative is that she's looking at. I think that is about it. Yes. So any questions, really?
This is a matter of interest. In the 80s, I was the landlord with the 3 horseshoes in Yaxley.
Right, yeah, I know it.
And this gentleman's uncle was a friend for 57th.
Right.
And one day he came in one lunchtime. I used to work with him at Perkins. God bless him, yeah.
Would he happen to be short and bald?
No.
No, right, so it was the other one who worked at Perkins.
Oh, John Walker and
John Walker, Bernard
John,
Baines.
yeah.
Bernie Baines.
Well,
I
Bernard,
heard Tony.
Yeah.
well, Bernard, I used to work with Bernard, and as I say, Bernard came in one day, one lunchtime. He'd been down to the airfield, and he was with another gentleman, an American gentleman, retired, and they had a drink, and he was saying, the last time I came in this pub was 1943. He said, just before I was invalided back to the States. He said, because my aircraft had been shot up. I can't remember actually what it was, the aircraft was called, but I've got a sneaking suspicion, thinking back, the nose art was a painting of his son
Right.
with a bomb under each arm, and the little boy was wearing a pair of Wellingtons.
I've got a book with all of the nose art of the 8th.
But that's
So I'll
a vague memory
yeah.
of him chatting, you know. I only met him for an hour or so.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Bernard said, just going back to what you were saying about why it was called Glatton, Bernard maintained, bless him, the reason that it was called Glatton and not Conington was because of the Conington near Cambridge.
Ah, right, yeah.
And also, something that was brought home to me many, many years later, at that particular time, Americans couldn't navigate.
No. Same as Gox Hill was called Goats Hill to them. But it's interesting, I didn't go on too much about how I really got into it, but Bernie Baines and John Walker and Eric Bromby were the 3 founder members of the 457th Bomb Group Association.
They're members of this group as well.
Well,
John Walker and
Yeah.
Bernie.
so, and there's Eric Bromby was the mayor's chauffeur
Yeah.
for quite a while. My dad got to know Eric. So I was looking for these 3 books, and they happened to pop up on eBay. All 3. Don't get all 3 together. Message the guy. Whereabouts do you live? Whereabouts do you live? All right, I live in Stamford. Where do you live? I live in Dogsthorpe, said Eric. Right, I'll come over. Get some money out, I'll come over. So Eric comes over to Stamford, and he presents me with the 3 books, and they're signed by veterans. And I've got another copy of this signed by veterans, and several other books. So Eric's got these. First of all, he's gone to the car. Cagey was Eric. All 3. So there you go, I've got these. Right, okay, how much? Hang on. Goes back, comes back with another couple. Right, how much? About 4th, 5th journey. Look, just get everything out, will you? For Pete's sake. Right, okay. So, this is another one. So, typed up. There. That was on the pile and there was a load. Right, how much do you want for the lot? 240 quid. All right, I'll take it. Right. I've got 240 quid. I wasn't going to haggle. They're worth at least 70 quid each. But I hadn't opened them at the time. Then I opened them and they're all signed. Didn't expect that, did you? No. Oh, okay, smart ass. So, unfortunately, Eric died, what was it, 2 years ago now, I think it was. But he was the guy that got me into it, and also Ash that you saw in the uniform there, and also another guy called Johnny Burton. I don't think you ever met Eric, did you?
No.
No. So, and I said Eric's pictured here. He was a great artist. As I said, this was one of the books, and again, it's just coincidence how everything works out. This is, I said, a book, and it's called Odd Sound. No, it's not Odd Sounding Names. It didn't actually have a name. That was it. So it gave me this, and it was written by a guy called Charles Osborne, Don Osborne, his name was. So I've got this. Right, okay. Did a bit of Google search on it. It's got on here to Eric, my right hand man, Charles D. Osborne. Charlie and I had a great time at Duxford. I was his wingman. We had hamburgers. Eric's right in there. So I'll better see if I can get order a copy of this. So I did. And it was just before a memorial a few years ago. And I knew Cleo Osborne was coming over, so I'll make sure I get the book. A couple of days before, that dropped through the letterbox. I met Cleo Osborne at Madingley. I said, I've got a copy of the book. She said, oh, that's good, because Dad died 2 days ago. That dropped through my letterbox on the same day that he died. Pure coincidence. So Eric also had a friend of his, Keith Wigglesworth, who did that for me. Absolutely fantastic. Took a couple of pictures and merged them into one. That particular one there was on eBay. Brilliant. Miss Ida Comes Home, that's important. So I contacted the artist as well. He hadn't got any, so but it popped up on eBay. Right, I'll have it. 50 quid, bargain. 70 quid, 90 quid, 120 quid. Got up to about 200 quid, but I got it. Yes. So, and I had an exhibition at the Addison Arms in Glatton. So I've got my pictures and that there. And my mate Warren comes in and goes, ah, you got one, did you? Yeah. Where'd you get it from? eBay. You were the bastard that got it. I said, you were the bastard that rung me up. Pete's sake, man, it's supposed to be mate. So this one here, that's signed by a load of veterans as well. The copper plate is, I heard somebody mention Sally B. That's Sally B in 457th colours back in the 80s. The picture there with the just the tail on it, that's part of the a certain crew anyway. I can't remember what crew it was. Part of the Clarence A. Ray crew. The nephew came over and said, I'm going to stick 100 quid behind the bar at the Addison Arms. Brilliant, great, we'll toast them. I can't make it, I'll stick £1,000 behind the bar. It's a bit of a bugger because I had to drive there and back again, otherwise I'd have drunk and drive. But my wife painted that in memory of them, and that actually sat in the pub for several years until the pub changed hands. And then you've got a few other pictures on here as well. Some of the pictures of Wendover Airfield, Eric again. Also in here are some, we've got the originals from the dedication of the memorial, and also signed by Rodner, and the original sign-off as well for the water tower plaque as well. So feel free to have a look at those. That one there, it is generally correct. The 457th did come into contact with the 163, but pretty rare occurrence, and obviously right at the end of the war as well. So, like I said, feel free to come and have a look, and call me for questions if you got any. So, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.
A bit puzzled by the memorial.
Right.
There's 7 officers on that plane.
Well, there was actually 10 guys on there, yeah.
About 7 of them are officers.
Yeah.
There'd normally be 4, I think.
Yeah. They thought they were on quite an easy run. So you wouldn't normally have had Dozier and Snow on there together, but Dozier, yeah, I want to be on there. So do it.
So what was the mission again?
They were going to bomb the marshalling yards at Ingolstadt.
So that's genuine enough.
Yeah, yeah. So and as I said, it's detailed in the found in the Foot Locker as well, and we've got the original, or a copy of the original crew list on there as well.
Right.
So, but yeah, so if you can get hold of a copy of Found in the Foot Locker, then do. If you've got an interest, well, yes, definitely get a copy of that. Fate to Complete, absolutely fantastic. Another book which is quite local, that is really an amalgamation of all three, using lots of Zemps pictures, and is generally quite correct with the info as well.
And angling books, they've got plenty of them.
Angling books, have got
Yeah.
plenty of them. Yeah. I was lucky or unlucky enough to actually be at the airfield when Robert Dodson was distributing his copy to Julie at the airfield. So, but yeah, definitely worth getting if you can. So,
With regard, you said there were 6 of the blokes off Miss Ida buried at Madingley,
yeah,
which then, 3 were repatriated?
they were.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's an unusual thing from our perspective.
Originally, Robert Todd was buried at Madingley, and then his body was then exhumed and flown back to the States. I've got a bit of a story about it. It's a little bit sketchy because apparently after Robert died, Mum became a bit of an alcoholic and various other bits. Uncle Robert, cousin Maggie was an unpublished book. It's all a bit murky. There was something about Spanish as well, but it's right there on the Mexican border, regardless. I say I'll return the second one if I find it, whether I can get into or out of America.
Yeah.
We'll probably leave it for a couple of weeks, let it all die down a bit, I think. So,
I think in the 50s they were given the choice to have the guys repatriated, because the guys that crashed from Holbrook on Langtoft, most of them went back to the States.
Right.
But they were allowed to choose in the 50s.
That was really the thing, whether that was a sort of normal, what sort of
Yeah.
percentage was normal for
Yeah.
repatriation and...
It was a big thing in the 50s, apparently they could have them taken back, yeah, which is a little bit grim to us, but they were given the choice. So there's a couple, I think, at Madingley, but most of them went home. It's a shame, isn't it? 'Cause I think they should stay together as a crew.
It happened for the First World War as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the Americans.
Yeah, full repatriation.
Strange, isn't it?
Well, the weird thing is they seem to then fall out of the system
Yeah.
as well, because the American Battle Monuments Commission, isn't it, only
Yeah.
looks after the ones in the cemeteries and
Yeah,
forget every...
yeah, it's a shame.
So-
It's a sad thing to do, yeah.
yeah, I've got Found in the Foot Locker. There's pictures of all of the graves. And they're all detailed on Find the Grave as well,
Yeah.
if you're familiar with that. But as I said, it's something that, as you saw that picture, I've no idea who the little girl was. It was just one of those pictures. I saw it, got it. She's probably about 6'2" now, probably about 18, who knows. But and it's definitely worth going to, particularly if you can make it on Memorial Day as well, generally May the 25th.
So these all these bits that you found,
Yeah.
I mean, presumably the Americans took away
They took
the
all
bulk of
big
the
bits.
wreckage.
Yeah, they took away all the big bits, the
Is there an
engines.
indication how the aircraft did it hit dive down? Did it
No.
go along? How did it?
Apparently took off. Engine number 2 was on fire in the first place. Dozier radio back to the tower. It was confirmed. He said, right, okay, I'm going to belly land it into, or effectively on high top, I think it's called. Belly flop it into there. Put it on the flat on the ground.
Which is why you might find bits, because presumably it travelled a fair distance.
That's it.
Yeah.
When it came down, it actually hit one of the haystacks, snapped the wing off, fuel air everywhere, ignited, and then boom. So that big chunk there, that was probably about half a mile away. But when they're ploughing, if you clonk something, you'll stick it on the back of the plough. When you get to the edge of the field, toss it in the ditch. So that's what obviously happened with that. The field walking aspect, people say, oh no, you shouldn't do it. Well, you've got a bit that is, and this is personal opinion, you've got a bit that's that big. 2 years later, it's that big. A couple more years later, it's that big. When it's been in the ground probably for 10 years, it's big as your thumbnail, and it's lost then forever. But as I said, I'm very lucky with Paul. he finds stuff when he's ploughing, and he'll contact me and say, right, I've put it by the side, come and pick it up. The other option is, as I know on other sites, not just where there's been crashes, but other sites, farmers don't let anybody on the field, just in case they find something. And then secondly, they weigh it in for scrap. So, and I'll tell you, a bread crate full of aluminium still weighs something. So my suspension's going to be pushing it a bit before I go down to Kent. So,
Well, if there's no more questions, I'll just run through a few notices and then let everybody loose on adding to their collection.
I've got a question. Do I have to stay and listen to the notices?
No,